There's no way on I mean, I'm looking at land. Even the land around me is $450,000 just for the land.
Oh,
you know. So
I help out my mom, so
yeah, so do I. I look after my mum.
Yeah.
Take her to all her hospital visits and stuff.
Me and my mom, we look out for each other. And that's
That's
always
it,
good.
man.
Families need to stick together.
That's it. If you ain't got family, you ain't got much.
That's true.
So
oh yeah, so I got a new idea for channel content that I might be making soon, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily the smartest idea.
It's a great idea. You just got to be careful.
Change platforms to Pornhub.
No. Basically, I got an idea for a show from another show I've been watching.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Kevin J. Johnston Report. He's a process server, and he films him barging into places, serving people. And under Canadian law, anyone who interferes with him is committing a, what is it called, an obstruction of justice. And almost everywhere he goes, someone incriminates themselves trying to interfere with the process. And
what's his channel's name?
His name's Kevin J. Johnston. I think someone incriminates himself.
I'm going to have to check that out because I like people fucking up.
Well, my idea was to basically get myself registered as some sort of tenant advocate and do something similar where I'm confronting corrupt landlords.
That's pretty badass.
That's a worthwhile project.
I'm just concerned about...
Do you have an attorney? Like, do you know an attorney?
I don't have a attorney on a retainer or anything, no. I have one person who's interested in doing it with me, so at least I won't be by myself.
Okay, I don't think I've got... Is it Johnston or Johnson?
I don't know.
It's called Doc Johnson. Just kidding.
Here, I'll see if I can just get a thing. Can you still see me when I have the thing window closed?
Yeah, your video just freezes up if the window's closed on your phone.
You might want to shoot that guy an email.
The Freedom Report. Yeah, it's this guy, the Freedom Report.
You might want to shoot that guy an email or something and ask him. Now, did you say he was in Canada as well?
Oh yeah, he's actually like not too far from me.
Yeah, so shoot him an email and ask him like what kind of legal issues he's had. Like,
oh, this guy.
Does he think that you should get an attorney before you try doing this? Because it sounds like that's something you might want to do. Is have at least an attorney in the wings. Go to someone and say, hey, if X, Y, Z happens, are you willing to, take my case?
We used to have a really popular show here in Ontario on our local TV station called Silverman Helps, which is basically this format on cable TV. And I just figured, he basically copied that format because the show's not on TV anymore. And I figured that's something that might be interesting, and I could get a lot of local fans doing it potentially.
Is it Kevin J. Johnson?
Yeah, Kevin J. Johnson, Freedom Report.
Okay. I'm just going to watch this.
But there's a real problem in my area with illegal apartments, and that's something that I personally want to, before I move away from here, I want to take that upon to see if I can even do anything about it. Because hopefully by this time next year, I'll be living out in the country.
Everyone should just kind of pick a pet project and try to put some energy, at least some energy into it.
Yeah, I need to change platforms, dude. I need to change platforms if I want to do that.
Do what?
Yeah,
you said you should choose one thing and put every bit into it. And I said, yeah, I need to change platforms to Pornhub.
Oh, that's Pornhub. I've missed the Pornhub part. I was like, huh? Yep, Ryan the cam girl.
Yep, that's it, man.
Again, girl is in quotes. But I'm sure you'll find an audience, man.
Absolutely.
There's something. What is it? Rule 34, right?
Absolutely.
Do it. I often like when I was younger, I would say like I would become like I wouldn't do it now, but when I was younger, I was like, maybe I'll become a stripper for a while because it's so easy and you make so much money. And then I thought about it, and there was no opportunity for me to become a stripper. But I kind of I envied female strippers because of the money that they made and how little they had to do for it.
Dude, you should see this website called Chatterbait. Seriously, dude, if you're a remotely attractive woman, dude, you got money coming out your butthole.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Like
it's crazy.
I think the Mad TV with Oprah says "pull my finger," then she farts out all that money out of her ass.
Yeah, like if you're if you're a really attractive woman, mate, you're gonna make a ton of money on that website. People just throw money at you. It's crazy.
Oh, it's a damn shame I'm not a super attractive woman.
So,
and
well, there's
closer to 18, the better. Sorry,
I have $1 right here.
My timing is perfect, man. You guys. She said my timing was really good too. So.
Yeah, that's what she said.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
You know, timing is everything, including, you know, when you go in and, you know, when you grease the stripper pole.
Yeah, because I only go into those websites to check out how they work, not to actually check out anything.
Eric,
you know, it's like
just like with TYT,
from a system
right?
admin perspective, right?
Yeah, I go in and read the terms and conditions.
Hey, even you can make one fun thing with $1, even if you don't even spend the damn thing.
Well, you can throw it around.
Speaking of dollars, though, you know, and the economy, do we want to shift topics? Because we could talk about porn
no, because I want to talk about strippers tonight.
And Chatterbait.
And Chatterbait.
Chatterbait.
If you haven't been to Chatterbait, check it out.
Oh my God!
Ryan, like those girls. My milkshake brings other boys to the yard. Damn right, it's better than yours.
No.
God, that's a horrible image, Cheryl.
The only problem with Chatterbait is there's not enough black women on there.
Oh, Ryan gives it up. He does have a preference.
I don't have a preference. It's just good to have variety. You know,
variety is always awesome to have. Exactly.
But they're mostly white women, and it's just like, oh man, can we just have a little bit of a mix?
Well, back to Gnome's point though about making a lot of money. I mean, you'd be making a lot more than dollar bills. You know, you'd be cashing those dollar bills in, and you'd be ka-chinging up there above dollar bill level.
Oh yeah, I saw one woman last night. She'd probably be in her really early 20s, and you pay by tokens. So you go and buy tokens through the website, and then the website takes their cut of the token, and then you just throw the token at the person. And this girl, woman, whatever you want to call her, I reckon she racked up about $150 in about 3 minutes.
Yeah. Wow. You get some horny men in that audience.
So fucking hell.
Well, if you ever visit Sherrill City, Philly, you can go to a place called Delilah's Den. But you better bring like a wad of fucking money with you. It's like $150 or something.
Is it high end?
To get in, yeah. Yep. And then you got to pay like, it's no drink there is under $20, and no girl will look at you unless like, you know, if you slip a girl at 20 in that place, you will not see that girl again all night. If you slip her a 50, like, yeah, you might maybe see her again. Now, I didn't go wild and spend a bunch of money in that place, but it was as part of a business trip, and there's a bunch of
I'm getting ready to say, Garden, you know more about that place than I do, and I live here.
I hope so, girl. I hope you're not going into Delilah's den.
Is it Peppermint Hippo?
I'm thinking
South Park.
There's a bunch of all the dudes I was with. They were just fucking the usual frat business types, right?
Yep.
And that was our big bonus party, was to like have a night out on the town and like
bonus.
I didn't get fucking a second look from any of those girls because I was wearing off the rack clothes.
Did you? That's Nash.
Yeah.
Did you fill out a Yelp review for it?
No, Armani.
No. This was before Yelp. This was like in 1998 or something.
Oh, gee. If you couldn't get much for $50 back then, imagine what it would be like now.
So, Cheryl, I have a question for you, though.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you've been to Chippendales.
No, never.
Never been?
Nope.
Never went to any.
What the hell are you guys talking about?
Sex. We're talking about sex, my man.
Only time I saw
sex, baby.
Only time I saw the Chippendales was in the movie Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks.
Right. So I'm thinking you've never been to any of your what's the party that the girls have before they get married?
Hens night.
Bachelorette party.
Oh, bridal shower.
Right, hens night. Yeah. Wouldn't you guys go to strip clubs at that point?
I never really go to bridal parties either.
No, I'm with Shirley. I think Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks. You know, that's like old school. That's a classic movie. That's a classic movie.
Nick the Dick. I'll never forget that.
Well, the cool thing about strip clubs, if you ask me, I mean, it's cool having these hot women around, but you're never going to get anywhere with them, right?
Right.
But the cool thing is that they usually have an awesome bar in a decent strip club, and they are just more comfortable than a bar, and it's just like an upgraded bar. You know what I'm saying?
It's like an upgraded bar where you can get a boner when you just throw money at women.
Well, you're not. See, I don't get that. I don't do that. I don't like to get teased like that. Dick. So I don't get that.
I have some direct experience with that back in the day when I was doing more contract work, fixing computers. You know, after hours, after work, after my day job. I had some specific customers that like to go conduct their business in strip clubs. And of course, in Portland here, we've got legitimized, you know, they tolerate strip clubs and, you know, they're topless. They're pretty much bottomless. And we used to go conduct our business in these strip clubs. And I cut a few decent deals. You know, I made some good money with that as my atmosphere. And
a lot of that has to do with television and media, and you know, just putting it out there. I mean, look at the TV show Married with Children. You know, and then, you know, the nudie bar was like a common thing. You know, like,
for men it surely is, isn't it?
I mean, there's a lot of rundown strip clubs. Don't get me wrong, but like, there's also a lot of ones that are just like upgraded, like bars.
Mm-hmm.
They've got better alcohol. The atmosphere is better.
They usually have better food. Definitely.
Some of them, yeah.
Usually, yeah.
Who the hell orders food at a strip club?
I do.
Right. No. Okay.
Aww.
You're on another level than me. I'm not eating food at a strip club.
I am.
Oh, matter of fact, Delilah's was connected to a murder in 1997. It was this guy, Craig Rabinowitz. He killed his wife. And he used to visit that strip club.
Did the ghost of his wife follow him there?
No, he was going there before he killed his wife.
Ah, that's maybe why he killed his wife?
Mm.
Don't know.
Yeah, hit her in the head and drowned her. Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, I never forget that. His name was Stephen Rabinowitz. He was Jewish. No, Craig Rabinowitz. His wife's name was Stephanie. And they lived on the main line. And he was visiting this one stripper there.
I thought there was
those damn Jews.
I thought there was a
her name was Summer. The stripper name was Summer.
Rabinowitz?
Yeah.
Did he end up marrying the stripper?
No. He got caught
her name was
wife.
Summer Rabinowitz.
You got it. You got it. And his wife, the woman that he killed, she wasn't Jewish enough, so he had to go find a stripper that was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I knew that place was linked to a murder.
Yeah, if you don't light the candles on Yom Kippur, man, you know you're not a Jew. I'm gonna have to kill you.
They have one in Atlantic City too.
Is that your background though, Nash? Am I correct in assuming that? Are you a Jew?
Well, I'm a lousy Jew, but yeah, I mean technically I'm Jewish, but yeah, I'm pretty bad. You guys probably know more about Judaism than I do. I mean, I'm a bad Jew. As soon as I got bar mitzvahed, I left. I ran away. I ran away from the temple. I was like, never coming back. And I'm 50 years old now, and I've never been to the temple since my bar mitzvah. And they forced me into that. It was horrible. It was like torture, you know. Like I had to go to after-school programs to study Judaism and all this crap. Everyone was outside playing, and that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be outside playing. I just went through 8 hours of normal school. Now I gotta go through 2 hours of this brainwashing crap.
So Nash, you grew up as a Zionist in a Zionist family?
Absolutely not. No Zionism at all. No Zionism. There's a big difference.
Mm.
So what? How do you mean that? Do you mean that culturally? Zionism culturally?
Well, I mean, Zionism, you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. I mean, Joe Biden said it himself. You could look it up right now on YouTube. Joe Biden is a Catholic, and he said he's a Zionist. Zionism is a conspiracy, and it comes from the Book of Zion. And you have to read that to understand. I mean, everyone associates Zionism with Judaism, and they're totally two different animals.
Wow, I'm going to check that out.
Holy shit.
Well, I just heard
I need to get back to the root of that. I think I need to get back to the root of that.
They consider Netanyahu a Zionist because it's dealing with Christianity.
And see, there's been so much. There's been volumes and writers after writers of all this stuff that's gone on between Israel and everything else in the Middle East for all these years. I missed that point, and that's a crucial point. It sounds like, huh, Nash?
Look, Zionism is a conspiracy, and it was created, and you have to go back to the roots. You have to go down this rabbit hole too. I mean, it's easy to just be like, it's Jews. It's a Jewish conspiracy. The Jews aren't that powerful. The Jews are frontmen for a lot of people. And let's talk about the Vatican.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of that stuff rolls in and around and out of the Vatican. Yep. I've seen some of that. Yeah.
Aren't they the biggest
have to
money in the world too?
It's easy to point fingers. I know. I've been yelled at my whole life. You know, it's
Shut
the
up,
Jews'
Nash.
fault. Everything's the Jews.
It's your fault, Nash. You're part of it, man.
Yeah, it's me. I know. I have the secret handshake, and I went to the private school with all the rest of the Jews, and we have this whole thing. We're taking over the world. So yeah,
So
there's
why
only
didn't
14 million of us.
Why didn't you put that on your resume that you graduated from Yale?
Well, I had to change my name because, you know, they'd know I was one of them.
Yeah,
I have to deceive you guys. Isn't that what we do? I'm from the synagogue of Satan. I have to fucking deceive everything. I have to lie to you all day.
Oh God, that was great. That phrase was awesome. Synagogue of Satan.
Blood libel. I've got a copy of the Lives of the Saints. It's from like 1890 something, and it talks about blood libel, which is where the Catholics thought the Jews went around killing kids and drinking their blood.
Yeah,
and there's several like saints in the old version of the Book of Saints that are like child martyrs who were martyred because Jews supposedly killed them and drank their blood.
And any of you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if any of you don't know, I think I'm right on this. The saints are only in the Catholic Church. Saints come from the Catholic.
Does Hillary Clinton drink human blood?
Of course.
That's
all right. Thank you.
Because we know.
She certainly does. So, okay, is she Jewish?
No, she must be if
she's drinking blood, dude.
She's a carpetbagger, man.
She's a I think like a Bible or something, and she threw like a Bible at like some like secret agent. Wow, she's such a fucking cunt.
Yes, there's the word.
She is, Eric.
From one of the originators.
She's a cunt.
Good thing Ryan's
This is spiritual wickedness in high places. I typed that in the chat. This is spiritual wickedness in high places. Not to quote the Bible. I'm no saint. I'm no nothing. But these people, you have to understand who they are and what they believe in. And only then can you start to, like, you know, figure out the solution. These people are really fucked up who are in control of our lives and steal from us every day.
But if you use that word they too much, they will also hang you with it, and they will convey to them, and they'll use it back against you. They labels you as a nutcase, you know, as somebody that's gone down too many rabbit holes.
Well, I've already been there. I've already dealt with that. That's no big deal. I can handle it.
My husband think I'm a nutcase.
They. What do you want me to call them? You want me to call them by their names?
I think for a lot of us, and I'm speaking very rhetorically, very generally now, when you use the word they, somewhere in the back of your mind, somewhere there with your notes, you've got to say who they is. Because for a lot of people, especially if you're talking to people, Nash, just let me finish real quick. Especially for a lot of people that don't maybe have your background, that aren't familiar with you, people that you don't know. If you
could say is the elite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we can say elites, but elites is almost as vague as they.
No. Elites are the ones with money and power.
Exactly.
It's narrowing it down.
The ivory tower elitist.
Well, it carries the implication that where they came from before they had that money and power doesn't matter. It's just whoever has the money and power now.
Agreed.
They said Hillary and Bill was trailer park trash before he became governor and stuff.
And Nash, I wasn't trying to shut you out at all by, saying, hey, or label you or smear you or anything. I think this is a great conversation. I was just trying to take it or continue, the conversation in a direction where instead of making it all maybe potentially about conspiracy, and then we laugh and giggle and talk about a whole bunch of stuff, including stripper poles, I thought maybe.
Hey, brother, I love you, and there's no offense taken. There's no offense taken. I don't have a problem with what you said. You asked me a question. I was trying to answer it. And who are they? And well, we know their names. We know who they are.
Yeah.
Okay. And I agree. I agree, but what I'm saying is I'd like to see this circle get bigger. I'd like to see our numbers increase. I'd like to see this be a huge phenomenon. I'd like to see more Canadians, more Aussies. You know, I'd like to see some Europeans. You know, there was an awful lot of people in that stadium today watching that World Cup game. And, you know, I would like to have those folks get behind, you know, a more solid policy, a more solid vision for the world, and understand who they is.
We're really, you know, I mean, we're really optimistic. We're kind of also naive at the same time because we're so innocent. You don't understand the forces that you're up against. I think that's a big problem. I think you don't understand how evil these people are, how greedy and sick and fucked up that these people are. And you think that, you know, I'm going to vote someone in there who's going to represent me. You're out of your mind. I just don't believe that's going to happen.
Nash is right.
Nash is right to a great extent. Persis, did you want to chime in on something? Man, you keep talking and you're not. You know, we're not able. I'm either dominating the conversation, which I apologize for, or I'm not hearing what you want to add.
I'll see if I can remember it in a minute.
Okay. I'm just sitting here enjoying your beard as much as I enjoy Ryan's beard. I think you guys should have a beard off. You guys have great beards.
Oh, thanks.
I wish I could grow a beard. You know, I get itchy and scratchy, and it gets hot down here in Florida.
That's where I'm at, man. I got about a 3-week beard on, and it looks like shit. So.
I wish I could, man. You know, I'd save a lot of money. That's for damn sure.
Like I use like a tiny small buzzer to shave my face.
Yeah, razor blades are expensive, man.
You're looking pretty.
Oh, it's not. It's not a razor blade at all. What you call it? It's Hold on, I'll bring it.
It's a clipper, right?
Hold on, I'll show you.
Ebon looks like he's ready to chime in.
Oh, no, I can't remember what I was thinking about before. Oh, wait, no, it had to do with this thing you were talking about, trying to grow the group and stuff like that. While it depends on the issue, okay? If you want to, say, activate English football lads, there's certain topics that you're going to be able to activate them for, and others you're not going to be able to activate them for. So It depends on what you're trying to accomplish, I think.
Right, and tactics in the conversation that includes getting more people engaged in, you know, their local politics. You know what their levels of interest are. It's a huge developmental phenomenon, I guess. You know, it takes a lot of organizing, a lot of feet on the ground, a lot of talk, a lot of conversation, a lot of organization between like-minded folks.
Yeah, this is what I use to shave my face. And plus, the good thing, it's a AA battery operated, so I could use my rechargeable AA's on it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I use to shave my face?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I
always
use
have to think.
something similar, but I plug it in.
Do you know what I use to shave my face?
A switchblade?
A USB stick. It doesn't really shave very well, as you guys know.
I'd show you mine. I'm pretty proud of it, but the one that I had, I've never had a USB stick go bad. And then I bought this one, and it was the largest one I had, the most capacity, and it went bad. First one I've ever had go bad, and I was like, ah!
Yeah, that sucks.
Sucked.
I mean, the stuff I had didn't, you know, like, I only had very, very rare few things that went bad. Like when I first got the Nintendo Wii U, it had that long update, and I was one of those unfortunate people that got bricked. But they did send me a new one now.
Yeah.
That would suck.
Yeah. I wanted to go back. Nash, you still there?
Yeah, man.
I wanted to go back to your point of we're all, pretty much like these consumers. They've turned us into these consumers, and we have like these quote unquote modern lives. But some of us, like activism and politics and whatnot, for me, it's been it's been a part of my life for, a lot of years, my adult life anyway. And I have, I've been on, some demonstrations. I've been involved in a lot of different things and whatnot. I've stared down, RoboCops in Portland. I kind of think like I've got some background and some cred as far as that's concerned. I haven't stared down any RoboCops since the second Iraq War demonstrations, but I've seen how mean they are. I've seen what their mindset is. It's gotten worse, obviously a lot worse since then, but I want people to know what the stakes are, and that they potentially got skin in the game. If they're willing to do nonviolence, if they're willing to do, if need be, worst case scenario, if we have to do violence. I mean, what the hell? Trump just pardoned those guys here in Oregon, those ranchers. I'm just.
Oh, I actually have a lot to say about that.
Oh,
those guys didn't really commit any violence, though, did
exactly. They didn't do it.
Hold on. They did. But it depends on how far you dug into this.
Well, what did they do?
Okay, so we're talking about the Bundys.
Well, I saw an interview today about that. Independent reporter Pete D'Antilli was there, and he said that the Bundys owned that land for decades. And here we go.
I thought the question was directed at me. I thought you were like, "Hey Nash, are you still there?" And then you started talking, and so I thought the conversation was to me.
It was, Nash. If you want to chime in on that,
I would like to chime in on a whole bunch of stuff. But which story are you talking about? Because you said a lot.
I did. I segued to that because I wanted to have a hot topic that I guess we could go to. My point was, back to you, it was the fact that some of us have actually, I guess, stared more of the devil in the face. And
so you're saying I never stared the devil in the face? You stared him more than I have.
No. That's not what I'm saying. That's usually the limitation of language. It's the limitation of the way that I'm able to
make your point right now. Make your point and ask your question. If you want to, you addressed me.
Right.
You called my name, so make your point and address me. Ask me a question if you have one.
And thank you. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. I think it's a matter of dealing with the variety of backgrounds, the variety of people that we have in the movement. People have to be tolerant and willing and patient about tactics and things about changing things.
So what's your question to Nash?
My question to Nash was just the fact that he gave out an impression. He put out an impression that that people weren't necessarily sufficiently aware of how evil the evil was. And I think there's a lot of us out here that are very aware of what the evil is and how the forces are lined up against us. Money is against us. The media is against us. The RoboCops are against us. You want to address any of that, Nash?
Sure, man. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. I'm not trying to argue and debate with you, man. If I don't understand your question still.
Yeah. I think I'm maybe unable to formulate it. And when I talk to you again in the future, if I think of a better way, when I ruminate about it, think of a better way to get what I'm thinking of vaguely, and I apologize for the vagueness. You know, I'll formulate it and I'll get back to you on it, because it's an important point, you know, in growing the movement and moving forward and actually being able to actually maybe get some wins and, you know, make some change in this country if we don't like what we see.
I think we're our own worst enemy. You know, we don't look in the mirror enough and, you know, look at ourselves. We have a lot of solutions. There's a lot of things we do, and we have a lot of power. We, the people, have a lot of power, and we, you know, just kind of go along. We go along to get along. There's a lot we can do. There's a lot we can do, and there's a lot of solutions. You know, I don't have all of them. I wish I did. It would be I wish it was simple. It's not that way.
Yeah, and I do acknowledge that it's definitely not simple. And the fact that we have varying degrees of useful biology, what I mean by that is we got people that still, I think, don't realize how much more quick and agile and precise and concise their thinking and their brains can be, as opposed to some of us codgers who are wearing down and wearing out, and their brains are filled up, and, you know, sometimes we're not as reflective and as agile, you know, in formulating our thought processes and our questions, you know, to actually really zero in and laser in on conversations to make them meaningful and effective.
Yeah, but we've been fooled our whole lives. And that's a big thing for people to overcome, to realize, like, you've been lied to your whole life. Everything you've been told is, yeah, there's a lot of lying, there's a lot of treason, there's a lot of greed, there's a lot to waking up. You know that there's a lot of Satanists out there that are murdering children and doing horrific things right now as we speak.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it's far, and that whole thing is far away from me. And I don't, with the amount of things that are out there to keep up with, to stay on top of, to think that you personally put a priority on, thinking that they're important. Things like pedophilia and those sex trafficking rings and, you know, the stuff around Podesta and Pizzagate and all that crap that absolutely disgusts me to the bottom of my very soul. I don't want to spend a lot of time on, because they're gross and disgusting and they freak me out. But
those are the people you need to nail first.
Right.
Those are the people you need to nail first.
But I also
I also know how disgusting and painful and horrible the truth is sometimes. We all want to walk away. We all want to quit and put our head back in the sand. It's easy to do that.
Yeah, but you've got to be aware that it's there. You know, and if you've got some rainbow warriors or whoever the fuck your warriors are that are able to...
warriors, man. We're all here looking for the truth. We're all looking here for the truth, and we want justice to be served. If the Constitution doesn't apply to everyone, then we're a banana republic. Are we a banana republic? Is America bankrupt? Are we just a...
We're definitely going that way.
It's like, I even still question the fucking debt, too. I mean, here's one thing. They print lots of fucking money, and they have money digitally anyway. So the guys still question the debt. I mean, they could be lying to us.
Yeah, that is probably, I think, money and the foistering, that whole debt idea, when And I don't.
It's over 100% GDP, and we can never pay the interest. We can't even pay the interest on the debt.
And I'm not sure, and I don't want to put words in Eric's mouth, but when I think about the debt and the money thing, I think it's another social control that they're using to further their own agenda, you know, to keep us.
Who are they?
They, again.
Who are they?
They, the elite. The actual people. There you go. You're laughing because I'm listening.
No, I'm laughing because you asked me the same damn question 10 minutes ago. You said, "Who are they?"
Yeah, I'm saying right, but I'm saying that, and I'm laughing because you picked up on it, and I picked up on it because you're laughing because I said elite. It's all good. It's all good. We're furthering the conversation by doing it, by having it, by moving it forward. You know, by picking out bits and pieces of it. The problem is it's bits and pieces. It's not necessarily coherent. It's not necessarily that any one of us is going to pick out, you know, any of this stuff and come away with this with any kind of a coherent understanding about the conversation we just had. We're fractionalized. That's our fate. That's our existence as human beings. That's how we experience our reality.
Someone's moving a lot of stuff. I think that might be you, Garden.
And the unemployment rate is wrong too.
Oh, Shirley, what did they tell us the truth about? Come on.
They tell us nothing.
I think
because like Richard Wolff said, you can work 1 hour a day. Long as you say you're employed,
did they tell
you are counted.
Why is
you're being lied to nonstop? Your parents were lied to. Your grandparents were lied to. You guys are just going along with it. You know, they're like, yeah, let's just think we're awake and we know everything on YouTube and we'll solve the world's problems. You guys don't understand the depth of this. You really don't. You don't understand the evil that is in place. These people are evil. I don't think you guys understand that.
Well, I wanted to get back to my point about Rainbow Warriors because you just segued right back to my thinking about Rainbow Warriors or warriors, people that are willing to go into Pizzagate and down those rabbit holes and explore that stuff and bring it back to us. And those people of, I don't know, what would you call them? Goodwill? Those people, those investigative journalists that pursue that stuff, that write about it, that let us know about it. If they're willing to do that, they're showing some very strong gumption. They're showing some very strong anti-status quo. Hey, you know, if this is fucked up, we gotta expose it. Those are the kind of people that you want in your camp, at least to have some of those kinds of folks, if you're indeed involved at all with overturning the system, you know, that allows that. That was kind of directed at you, Nash. Sorry.
Was he the one that left?
No, that was Garden.
Oh.
Garden decided to move some heavy boxes.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Tech talking now. Hey, Tech.
Yeah, that's me.
What's up, Commie? I'm just kidding.
I carry a red card, guys. I thought you guys all knew at this point that I was a socialist.
Oh yeah, Tech Move. Can I tell you what I was going to say about the whole BLM standoff with the Bundys?
Yeah, because we're all over the place. It seemingly.
Okay, so it all started more or less when some Obama era policy started controlling the Bureau of Land Management, I think what really started setting the Bundys for decades have been very anti-federal government, but the specific thing that really got things rolling this time were two things that had to do with water conservation. One was a new tax. It was a federal tax on ranchers where they had to pay a certain amount of money per square, basically calculating the amount of rainfall per square foot on their land, them having to pay a tax on it, and banning them from trying to collect any of it. Simultaneously, there's a wildfire going on, okay? So that's, for a couple of years, this situation where they're having to basically murder off huge portions of their herd they can't afford to keep because of the taxes on, like, this. Basically, they're having to slowly use less and less of their land for various reasons. Then they have to create a 120 acre through their land fire cut to protect their herd and the remaining grazing for the rest of the year from a raging wildfire. They were then targeted for prosecution by the federal government for creating that fire cut without permission, even though there was no way they could have realistically gone through the bureaucracy to do it in time. And that got a lot of their friends riled up, and that's more or less what motivated the standoff at their initial ranch in Nevada. And then what made it even worse when it kind of pushed over to what happened in Oregon, you end up having a situation where the media did largely, in my opinion, misrepresent it. I really do. Yeah. And by the time it got to the Oregon thing is when I'm a little bit fuzzier on the details. You're talking about the ones who specifically took over the national park, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that was just in protest of this insanity that was going on in terms of, okay, well, you can choose to let your entire herd of cows die, or you can get this massive multi-million-dollar fine for creating a fire cut that would protect them. Because, the bureaucratic process to do it moves way slower than the fire. It was just pathetic. But the reason why I think he was pardoned, other than just it being a really bad situation to begin with, it's I think the same reason why a lot of these grooming gangs in the UK don't get targeted. Now, you can say what you will about certain council, what do they call them in England? The council groups, like the municipal governments. There's a lot of councils that are apparently tied to a lot of the gangs who are running it. But on top of that, if the police in the UK were to actually go into one of these areas where it's happening and attempt to enforce the law, simply if they were to go in and try to deal with these gangs directly like they do in like the US, their police would be so outclassed by the amount of physical hardware that these criminals have. Right now, there's a huge amount of guns, like automatic weapons, grenades, squad support weapons, all that stuff is flowing into Europe right now. And everyone's getting their hands on it. It's flowing in from Eastern
This is
Europe,
all done by design. If they wanted to end this, they would. Look at how savvy and fucking brilliant they are. Look, if they didn't want
let him finish.
ISIS would be gone. Cutting me off.
Okay? Let him finish.
Let him finish. Yeah.
My point is yeah, you're right. If they wanted to just bring out the big guns, they could probably fix this problem inside of 2 weeks. But really, they'd probably only catch 90% of the people involved at most. The other ones would go to ground. They would probably begin terrorist actions against the UK government. You're sending the police into these heavily ghettoized areas where it's Muslim majority, and they force all the other ethnic groups out of the area. Often they're having bricks thrown at them just for going into those neighborhoods, let alone a large enough group to come in and deal with the gangs. They'll turn the entire part of the city against them. People who have nothing to do with the gangs will come out of the shops and start throwing bricks at them. And you can see this behavior on YouTube videos of police and first responders going into these areas. So the body toll would be so high, and the imaging, like how it actually looks to the public for what's happening, it would be so easily spun into, look, they're trying to ethnically cleanse these people. It has nothing to do with them going in to break up the gangs. The fact that they had to shoot 500 people to get to the gang is going to look bad no matter what happens. That's why they cannot do anything. They're paralyzed by the way that it's the same reason why the Vietnam War was ended by television, basically. Public opinion was too easy to control because of how bad the optics were on both sides. And the other thing too is you can say, well, they're abusing children, it's worth the risk. Yeah, and the government can then go after some other group of people who aren't abusing children and just say they were, and that's their excuse now. So you can't just roll out that kind of solution automatically.
Well, I heard a different story about the Bundy Ranch.
And I want to hear that too, because I've got another piece of it, I think, possibly. Go ahead.
An independent reporter, Pete Santilli, he was out there, and he said he went and researched, and he found out they wanted to take the Bundy land from them for the uranium energy company that was affiliated with Hillary Clinton.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And what's somebody get ready to say?
I know I'm waiting for the rest of your story so then I can chime in and sort of tie it with what I was saying.
Yeah. It was tied to a uranium energy company, and the sheriff of the county of the area was in on it too, because on the uranium energy Facebook page, they mentioned about the sheriff. You know your responsibility. You got to deal with this. They wanted to take the land from them.
I think this shit just got deeper than it is already.
Yeah, they wanted to take the land from them to do this uranium deal. I guess make it out there on the land, and they were killing their cattle. They were lying to the media, talking about, oh, they were doing it. No, they weren't, and setting fires. The government was doing that.
So, Shirley,
what do you think we're doing in Afghanistan?
Oh, hell yeah. We over there guarding the poppy fields and bringing that damn heroin back in. They talking about they helping the heroin addiction, the opioid addiction. That's a bunch of BS.
But back to Cheryl's article. Back to Cheryl's article. Do they talk about, you guys all know what eminent domain is, right?
Yeah, eminent domain.
Crap, and even Donald Trump used that on a woman in Atlantic City. Get out.
Oh, he couldn't beat her.
Eminent domain is definitely something you get at a sex shop. Yeah. But
this right here wasn't eminent domain. The government just wanted to take over it.
But does that make believe? Is that unconstitutional?
Yes, it is.
That's fucking unconstitutional, big time.
Yes, it is, because and they called them, they're malicious.
But
they're racist and malicious, and they really weren't. They're law-abiding citizens. They had that land for decades.
But
decades.
But
where in the Constitution does it give authority for the government to own land?
This is a foreign energy company, and the Second Amendment protects from tyranny. Tyranny literally meaning foreign rule. So if this company is buying influence in order to acquire this land for their own purposes, that literally makes them tyrants by the definition of the word, thus justifying the Second Amendment against them and their agents.
I wish the Native Americans armed themselves. Sorry. I wish the Native Americans fucking armed themselves when it came to fucking Standing Rock. Fucking Obama.
And that's why the Bundys armed themselves to save their land.
Would have gotten killed. That's what we're talking about, the escalation of the,
They're going to get killed anyway. It's just going to be a long, slow death.
And
only one person got killed in that.
Another great point. Long, slow death. What would you rather have, I guess? Yeah.
Well, only one person got killed in that, and that's a shame. But what the government did was entrap them to get an indictment, but the jury had found them not guilty.
Well, the only other point that I'm going to make here is to plead my own ignorance and to figure out a better way. It pushes me in the direction of this conversation that we're having generally, to figure out a better way to marshal my facts, to get my story straight, and how I'm tying that in to what we're just talking about is I didn't know enough about this Ted Bundy thing.
Me either.
I didn't pay enough attention to it. And, maybe I should have if it had the kind of implications that this article that Cheryl's talking about brings up.
No, it's not an article. I saw a video. You may not, I don't care for Jason Goodman, but he just interviewed Pete Santilli, the independent reporter. He was locked up for 619 days because they was telling him he wasn't a reporter, and they locked him up. And the ACLU said, we have his credentials, but they locked him up because he found out the truth about that uranium energy deal.
And to me, I just want to point out how inadequate some of our queuing is, some of our alerts are. How much time do you actually have to go in and dig into these stories and find out what's really going on? My point there is, I saw an alert come up about the only mainstream press that I even pay attention to anymore is the USA Today, because it actually just gives me headlines. And there was a headline about Trump pardoning these Bundy guys. But then when I started to read into the story, because I was just interested in why they would have pardoned them, it wasn't even the Bundys and the Bundy story at all that they were talking about, at least the USA version. They were talking about there were two other guys in that group once they finally got to the Oregon part of the story. And these guys actually set some trucks on fire. And those are the guys, I think, that not Bundy's, that Trump pardoned. He actually pardoned the guys that went to jail for setting those trucks on fire. So it wasn't even the Bundys. It was guys from their group, the way I understood the story. So
no, it's the Bundys that were pardoned. It was the Bundys.
So it was the Bundys that were pardoned?
Yes.
Okay. It was the Hammonds. I thought it was the Hammonds.
I thought it was the Hammonds. Thank you, Nash. I thought it was the Hammonds.
Anyway, I'm going to head on out. So good night, everyone. Love you all. Take care.
Good to see you, Eric.
Good to see everyone. You guys take care. Have a good one. And I'm going to do some more computer work so I can get done. So I can get stuff done. But I really wanted to stop in and say hi to everybody.
Yeah,
so
good to see you.
I like the
take care, everyone. Love you all.
See you, Eric. Love you.
Have a good one.
You too.
So there we are.
So I think one of the technicalities of the case as well was that there was exculpatory evidence withheld from, so basically there was evidence that the government had that could have cleared two of the people involved, and the government knew that the evidence wasn't. They knew that there was evidence that would clear them, but the defense attorneys were not given access to the evidence when they had requested it, and then that resulted in this. Part of this as well. That was part of why.
From what I understand, the government wanted the land, and the Hammonds used a controlled fire, and the government came after them for it wasn't a controlled fire. There, blah blah. We want your land. I mean,
eminent domain.
The government's out of control.
Eminent domain.
Yeah. That's like someone coming to my house, we buying it, and say, "Oh, you gotta move.
We don't care. You got to be out of here by tomorrow, Thursday, Friday." Yeah, exactly. Get the fuck out of here.
Happened in my area. It was a business around here for years, a fruit and vegetable business, and they did this eminent domain the city has here. So they wanted to build new homes there. And they really screwed that family up. And even a construction company that was around there for years. They got them out of there. I don't know what happened to the construction company, but the family that owned the fruit and vegetable place, they had to file bankruptcy and everything behind that shit. And I don't think that's right.
It sure isn't right. From the individual's point of view, we got a shifting point of view problem here. It's like, okay, we got this supposedly better good that we're going to do. Let's say we're going to build this freeway, or, we got the tyranny. What do they call it? The tyranny of the majority, and the majority in this case is it's the government, it's the elite. Somebody else decides for you what the tyranny of majority is going to be. And then you're like, shut out because you're at the individual at that point, and the majority rules, and you lose.
Well, the sad part and the funny part is, at the same time, is that people are always asking when is the day, when is that coming, when is the new world order going to hit us? I'm like, you're living in it right now, motherfucker.
Yeah. You're living through it, motherfucker. Exactly.
You're living in it right now.
Yeah.
What do you mean when is it coming?
What they're doing over in the Middle East, they're gonna do it on us here. They're just gearing up for it.
I think that's the best trick that they have. Their best strategy is like everyone's waiting for when they're gonna start that new world order so they can fight it. Except we're already in it, so everyone's just waiting and realize and they don't realize that they're in it already.
And it was such a fallacy, It's such a fallacy because I remember that exact point. Back in the 1970s when I was in high school, we were all thinking about 1984, and it was just going to be sprung on us in 1984. No, we're living it. It's every freaking day. It's a logical fallacy to think anything about it, because you got to think about how humans exist, how we experience this shit. It's day to day. It's minute to minute. It's like Ebon's point to whether you're going to get shot and killed or whether you're going to have to deal with the fallout, actually dying from the radiation poisoning. What's better for you? Make a choice. Move on.
Not just the radiation, the vaccines.
Well, yeah. Generally speaking.
The water, the food.
Yeah.
The list is endless. We know what's going on. And look at us. We're doing nothing except screaming about it on YouTube.
But we're screaming about it.
Making preparations to go move into the wilderness.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Persis. Do you have enough oatmeal stocked up?
Oh, in terms of like dry food and stuff like that, yeah, absolutely.
You got your go bag? You got your go bag ready?
Well, I don't want to actually go into compromising details, so I'm not going to go into that.
Smart guy. Smart guy. So you're not going to tell us what's in your go bag?
That's good, Perseus.
He got it.
I'm
enjoying the Canadian perspective, like I enjoy the Oz perspective. You guys, a lot of your thinking and whatnot, I think, is based on the fact that you've got such a tight relationship with the UK. So you went into those English politics at a deeper understanding, at a deeper level than I've ever lived, than I've ever really dug into and experienced. Being an American, for us to dominate the world like we usually do, and now we're getting our comeuppance, and we don't really like it. I want to hear the other folks' perspective, and at least the internet gives us the opportunity so we can get into some of these folks.
Our comeuppance.
Yeah, our comeuppance.
Our comeuppance
controls everything.
You know what a comeuppance is, Nash? Fuck you.
I love you, bro. You're awesome, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. I love you too. You were making some really good points last night, Nash. I heard you last night. I liked hearing you last night, man. I missed you.
Well, sometimes I'm a goober.
Right on, goober.
Do you know they're trying to say Uber is running around now because of Trump? I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? That was under the Obama administration.
Well, Uber's still existing, right? I mean, they're still, so they're
still existing, but it's a lot of cab drivers committing suicide too.
Yeah.
You guys know that I called myself a goober, not an Uber, right? Like, you guys caught that? I said goober.
And I caught that. I was like, when you said goober, then I used goober, and then she started talking about Uber, and I was like, okay, let's talk about Uber.
Okay,
That was a quick segue.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you guys were like, I didn't say, oh, I'm an Uber.
Well, a comeuppance.
No.
A comeuppance.
I'm a goober with my comeuppance.
A comeuppance and a goober, I mean, those are terms like, are these guys talking about this shit's like, this phraseology is out of, what do they mean? So if we're going to change it to Uber, I got no problem with that.
Now he call himself Goober. We'll keep it at that.
Yeah, because if I drop a Gomer Pyle reference, man, nobody's going to get it. So.
I would.
Wasn't Gomer
I'm
Pyle
old school. I
officer
am
on-
old school. I'm an old soul.
What was that, Persis? I didn't hear you.
Wasn't Gomer Pyle the incompetent deputy on Andy Griffith?
He was gay.
That was Deputy Fife. What was his first name? That was Don Knotts. You're thinking of Don Knotts. Yeah. But Gomer Pyle was it was Jim Nabors in this other show called Gomer Pyle USMC, and it was a spinoff. He was a character.
Jim Nabors was a gay man who bamboozled the public, and you want to.
But did you ever let him sing in your ear?
No, I never did. Did you?
He never sang in my ear either.
Yeah, liar.
I am a freaking liar. No, Jim Nash.
He sang in your ear, and you know it.
Jim Nash. Gomer Pyle. Jim Nabors actually had a fantastic singing voice. And
yes, he did.
He was an amazing singer.
He was in that movie Cannonball Run or something with Burt Reynolds and like all the big celebs.
Well, he was a goofball character, on the Andy Griffith show that spun off into the Gomer Pyle show. And you always heard him speaking in this aw shucks kind of Southern thing.
Holy!
And all of a sudden, it's like he starts to sing in this like basso baritone, Placido Domingo, Pavarotti voice, and you're going, "Holy fuck! Did I ever underestimate this guy?"
Yeah, or it was Stroker Ace. Stroker Ace. That was the Burt Reynolds movie. Damn, he was just.
But he was a great singer, phenomenal singer.
Yeah, the man had talent. He was on the Love Boat, and that's all that matters.
In this day and age, I really think that people maybe don't get to be like more than just a single entity kind of thing. You're only known for one thing. But maybe back in the day, people were a little more well-rounded.
If you weren't on the Love Boat, you are nobody.
And my thing is, they don't have all the stars now today starring in one movie that it was back in the day.
Well, they actually knew how to make a blockbuster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because today it's all spin-offs and retreads and reruns.
Yes.
Unless you really dig a lot. And this stuff is out there. You can find it. I mean, you can go to Sundance. You can go to IFC. You can go to some of these places to find better culture. But you got to dig. A lot of,
Sundance has some really good movies and shows.
You dig a little deeper under Netflix, you can find some stuff.
Honestly, you know what they should? I would have no problem with retreads and remakes if they had first gotten rid of the copyright extensions that made it so that, like by now, the original Star Trek would be like David Cullen was talking about this. The original Star Trek would already be in the public domain if there hadn't been an extension put onto the way the Copyright Act had worked to extend it from something like 25 years to 75 years. So now it's like we could have a new Star Trek that isn't being controlled by a Paramount studio, and everyone could make their own Star Trek show the same way that, anyone can write a Cthulhu novel at this point.
Yeah. Good point.
Like that
You
would
know what
actually
I
be really
hated?
interesting to see.
Yeah, nice point. Great point, Perseus. I like
You
it.
know what I hated? When they remade the Honeymooners with the black cast. I'm like, oh my God, what are they thinking?
Yeah,
You
there's some
cannot
things that
replace
shouldn't be touched.
Jackie Gleason.
Okay.
Some things that shouldn't be remade or retouched. I mean, some
Yeah.
things are just gems and just leave them there. You know, I mean, yeah, don't mess with the honeymoons. You know, that was a classic.
I've never seen the original A Death at a Funeral, but the remake with the like black cast was fucking one of my favorite movies. It's a great movie. It's a very good movie.
But that's the exception. That normally is the exception, though. At least in my experience, normally the remakes are trash.
Yeah.
But that's like our generation, Cheryl. Like back in the day, you know, I remember, you know, WPIX. You know, it was the Honeymooners, The Odd Couple, and then Star Trek.
Right.
You know, and that was 2 hours of television. You know, when I was a little kid, you know, I was like, I'm going to stay up and I'm going to watch The Odd Couple, The Honeymooners, and Star Trek.
What a great lineup, though. What a fantastic lineup.
Yeah, it was great back in the day when they used to have Schoolhouse Rock on TV. The teacher.
I remember. Yeah.
Well, you know, and I don't want to point this out. I guess I want to point this out just because I think it's a good example. But okay, so Cheryl, when they remade The Wiz,
I didn't like it.
you guys know what I'm talking about?
I know.
With Michael Jackson?
Yeah,
They
but
should have left it with
The Wiz.
Diana Ross and Michael Jackson. That's how they should have left it.
Right, but correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't The Wiz the spinoff of the Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, it was.
But
it was something different. I love the Wizard of Oz with Dorothy.
Right.
Yeah, there's nothing like the original. There's nothing like the original. Yeah, The Wiz. Yeah, I thought that was kind of a flop. I didn't think much of it. You know, they had star power. They had a lot of big names, but it didn't resonate with anyone. It was a flop.
Wizard of Oz was honestly a really cool movie. Just basically on account of, I mean, a lot of the like, you know, there's no spoilers need be given, but you know, basically the finding, you know, that you had the thing you needed all year long, whether it was to go home or the courage or whatever it was, like that's deep. And then kind of just to correspond, you know, with the first Color movie, to have it be so kind of profound and showing off, like, damn, like kind of something to live up to for the times. It was like a pretty cool feat. And basically the idea that there's a guy behind the thing and he's not, like, they don't want you to see that it's just this guy. So
okay,
I like it. I like the movie.
So what you're saying there, hey Ben, so what you're saying there is they is the wizard?
Yeah, kind of tying that back to some stuff.
Yeah. They is the wizard. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they remade that.
Oh, like you didn't know that. Come on. You've been asking who was they all night long.
Oh, I was moving. I completely controlled this conversation, bro. Yeah. Yeah. I'm waving my wand at this point. Sure.
He reads too.
This is Ebon's show. He's the only one that has a wand.
And it also remade the old horror movie Black Christmas. I'm like, why did they do that? I don't know if anyone's seen that, but I saw it. Margot Kidder was in that one.
But her politics.
Black Christmas.
Oh my God! Really bad, Cheryl?
Oh, the new version was really, really bad. The old one was better because it was in a sorority house, a serial killer.
Like it, yeah.
He was calling from inside the house.
Huh.
But the new one, it was just total opposite.
What the hell are you watching these stupid movies for?
They just gotta basically get people out there. Like, they got to get people out there to see it. So they don't really need to make a good movie, as they need to make a movie that appeals to middle America. And when you see a cover of the movie, it's either advertising to like an older character or a middle-aged couple or younger couple or kids. You know, whoever's on the front cover. It's like that's who it's supposed to attract. You know, that's the magic of the movie, is you put yourself in the main character's kind of shoes. And
But Ben, they're not appealing to middle America anymore. They're brainwashing and indoctrinating and fucking people up. Movies aren't entertainment anymore. They're fucking you up.
I don't think they were ever just entertainment. I mean, maybe back when they were super primitive and it was like no sound, a reel of a train coming towards the audience, freaking people out. But I mean, if you go back to even like classics like Cleopatra, there's all kinds of globalist brainwashing in that movie.
Reefer Madness.
Yeah, Reefer Madness is a good example.
I've only seen the
This
musical.
goes back a long time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The propaganda and the brainwashing and the indoctrination and blah blah blah.
But once you become aware of it, I guess this is my point. Once you become aware of it, then unless you want to go against yourself, you know.
Well, this is the problem I always have to consider when I'm trying to.
Real quick, Persis.
Okay.
Sorry. If you're going against yourself and you know about this stuff, then you're self-defeating, as opposed to if you know there's some propaganda going on in the world. It's like, at least for yourself, maybe for your family, for your friends, people that see the way that you do, isn't it kind of like your own responsibility to kind of figure out, where that manipulation, where that propaganda is coming from, to better educate yourself?
It is, it's like going out to a restaurant. I know I'm eating GMO food tonight. But I'm going to the restaurant because the food is delicious.
Not only that, but it was probably microwaved.
So irradiated. Okay.
Where's Gordon Ramsay? He's probably back in the kitchen screaming at the chef.
Why aren't you using my microwave?
All right, Perseus, go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing
speak
though.
for yourself, man.
So if you learn
what
how
restaurants
to,
you eat at.
something you have to always be.
Go, Persis.
Okay, something though, like particularly if it's like, okay, I went through this phase where I stopped watching basically like all TV, all Hollywood movies. It didn't last very long, but it was a little while. But basically, when I started watching it again, I'm thinking, well, I can't not see all of this symbolism. It's making me angry, blah, blah, blah. But then I stopped to consider the fact that what if the condition that they're trying to do what if they're trying to provoke people into having a negative reaction to what they're selling, because what they're actually selling is the opposite of it? You always have to try to keep that in mind too. Because so when the Soviet Union first had their first revolution, what ended up happening was that society liberalized rapidly, and they had a real problem with divorces. Literally, a divorce was that you agreed you were divorced, and this led to rampant divorces. It led to a massive problem with youth street gangs of fatherless children, and those fatherless young men who needed a good, strong role model found them in Stalin, and that's kind of the wave he rode to control of the Soviet Union. He was able to appeal to all of these fatherless children who were, particularly the fatherless men, who were, screwed over by the rapid liberalization during the initial revolution. So, really, that rapid liberalization could have been an intentional thing to fail, to create this generation of fatherless sons, so a strong man would appeal to them. That could have very easily have been engineered. So it's, especially because it's like a one generation plan. And these young men, you only have to wait for them to get to like 15 to 17 years old, really. So it just seems too convenient that it's like, now we all understand what these symbols are and that we're getting angry about them. Well, one of the first things that the Soviet Union did once Stalin was in power was tax single mothers heavier than any other group in the country. that's like the exact opposite of the kind of stuff that their founding principles were on, but they had found a way to condition the public to want that because they had made them so sick of the rapid liberalization. So I'm thinking that could be ultimately what's going on here. This is why I've switched from believing in a conspiracy of global communism to a theory of intentionally crashing the global system to have a fractured neo-feudal society that is kind of built up in this right-wing reactionary way to the perceived threat. Because the thing about right-wingers is we have an elevated fear response. It's because our amygdala is typically larger in our brains than in people who are not right-wing. It's one of the neuroscience differences that they found. And this elevated fear response means that we tend to think about potential threats to us in the longer term. So by priming us for a decade or two, thinking that this specific thing is a threat, well, specific threats have specific answers. And if those specific answers are what you want us to do, and you want us to think that it's our idea to behave that way, you would do exactly what they do. It's just like the day when that mosque shooting happened in Canada just last year, there was, I don't know if you guys heard about it, but there was this, now they say it was one guy, but all the initial police reports said 3 shooters. So what are you going to do, right? So-called lone wolf attack. But it happened the day after Justin Trudeau announced that any people in America who don't feel safe because of the Muslim ban can just move to Canada, we'll let you come here. So why do you think Justin Trudeau made that statement? Was it to virtue signal to his own people, or was it to intentionally rile up right-wingers who have been waiting for him to say something like that?
If it's cold and calculating and you got a politician that's able to do that and effectively plan ahead, those kind of moves can be made. Yeah. Yeah, I see where you're going. That's interesting, Percy. It's very interesting. Could very well be happening in our country. It's just a matter of whether in our country, America, because most of us are.
Don't get me wrong. I'm under no illusion to the fact that Canada is a protectorate of the United States.
In some ways and shapes and forms, we are, yeah.
Well, no, yes, but like we're basically like a client nation. We couldn't exist independently without the United States.
Yeah, but you guys were a client of Britain before that,
mm-hmm.
and maintained that. I mean, we couldn't we couldn't overthrow you back in the day, so didn't happen. You guys.
Oh, that's the population differences weren't as drastic back then. You got your population exploded.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, different set of circumstances. Completely different set of circumstances. Yeah.
Oh, Eben's whipping the wand out right now. I can tell. He just put the cover up over the camera.
Yeah, and he muted himself, so he's back. He's messing with us now.
You talked about what is the will. Was there a will to do or was there some sort of plot or plan or design when it came to Russia? And we don't really know. There's an ambiguity, I guess, about if something was planned or something's kind of happens through chaos. And there's an old Taoist saying our little anecdote in Zhuangzi, where he's like, these people, this empty canoe is coming. You're traveling on a river, and this empty canoe starts coming towards you, and you just kind of row out of the way of the canoe, and so that it doesn't collide with you. But then this other occasion where there's this canoe coming towards you, but it's piloted by men. There's men in the canoe. Instead of just moving away out of the way when you see it's on a course, with your boat or canoe, it's like you start shouting at the other guys,
is the problem.
Shouting angrily, no, turn, no, you turn,
it's all
and
then
you end up colliding. But it's why, he says, I guess afterwards, you should be like the empty canoe situation and just treat everything that way.
So the only thing I guess you can arm yourself with is
order and disorder,
an awareness of history and the current events, however the current events are shaping up, and whatever your way of grabbing information and keeping up to date on what's going on. You just got to keep engaged, keep plugged in and keep looking at all the stuff and figuring out, whether it is what the real intent less all the potential ambiguity is. Ambiguity. Sorry, guys. Ambiguity.
You know what the real is.
What is the real? Tell me what the real is, Nash, because I know what it is.
Isn't there like, I mean, who's to say?
If you know what it is, then just tell us.
Clean
What's
socks.
the sense?
Clean socks are a reality if you like clean socks.
Who doesn't like clean socks? You just said you know what the real is. So what's up, man? What's the real?
Your real is different from my real, bro.
Well, you said you know. I know what the real is. So come on, let's hear it. Share with your friends. Share with us. Come on,
I'm thinking the real is subjective to me. You jumped on the phrase and didn't think, oh, he's going to twist that back around and just say it's something subjective.
Well, that's kind of what happened to you, didn't it?
What's that?
What's that?
How to define vague?
What's the real? What's the real, motherfucker?
See, I can't even wear that. I'm not a rapper. I can't even wear that. I'm a dead poet, in a crap society. That was a pretty good turn of phrase. Come on. Give me credit for that one, Nash.
Oh, you win. You
Did I go way over your head there with that one?
Yeah, totally.
I'm a dead poet in a crap society.
That was so intellectual and mind-blowing.
Did that just blow your mind, man? Did that just blow your mind?
Yeah, you did. You totally did. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were sitting here, Nash, with me right now, of course, we'd be sitting here with Ben. We'd probably be toking it up here in Oregon. We'd be all good, man. We'd all be on the same page. Our bellies.
Word to that, man. No doubt. If you met me in person and we were smoking weed, we'd get along pretty good. We'd be talking about what are we eating?
Exactly. Our bellies would be full. We'd have leftovers somewhere, and we'd be having a great conversation. Probably listening.
Yeah, we would.
Probably be listening to some really good music. So
all right. Well, you're in charge of the music, man.
Okay. Maybe that works for me because that's the real. To me, that's the real. What I just described there, that's the real.
All right. You put me in charge of the food. You handle the music, and we will cater this bitch out.
Yeah. I put Ben in charge of the weed. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, man. I can cook my ass off. Don't underestimate me. I can cook my fucking ass off.
Put Ben in charge of the walk. Yeah, we're good. You're supposed to chime in, Ben. Ben puts it on mute.
Welcome to Portland.
Welcome to Portland, exactly. It's weird. It's weird here, and we want to keep it weird.
Yeah, well, I went as weird as San Francisco, and that was weird enough for me. So I can imagine what Portland is like, because I know people that went up there and came back, and they were never the same.
Isn't Austin supposed to be weird too? Isn't New Orleans supposed to be weird too? You got a lot of weird places.
Oh my god! I want a second line. I want a second line so bad in Portland again. Oh my! In what am I saying? I want a second line so bad in New Orleans again. God, I want to just go down there and do some Mardi Gras.
Hey, I saw in Washington, City Council, they on break now. I forgot until when, but they have a bill on the table. Do you know how street singers are on the street playing different instruments and stuff to make money?
So the buskers.
Yeah, they're trying to ban them.
This is DC?
Yes.
Well, you knew it was going south when you were a 7-year-old kid trying to sell lemonade, and the police show up.
Yeah.
You can't sell lemonade here. You get the fuck out. Yeah. I mean, you know it was game over then.
So are they actually going to kill all culture in DC?
I don't know, but you'll see when they come back in session, City Council. Because I watch Lukewarm Nation, and they talking about it because they live in Washington.
Right.
So,
They are definitely going to manipulate the people. They are definitely going to come at come at you hard. They're definitely going to tell you what to think. Didn't MSNBC say that? What's her fucking cunt's name?
We tell you, Mika Brzezinski.
Yeah.
We are here to tell you what you think.
Oh my God! But
I can't believe she said that.
But
are you talking about that email? Are you talking about that email?
Huh?
Are you talking about that WikiLeaks email?
No, she said this on live television.
She said that on TV live.
Yeah,
I remember Zbigniew Brzezinski's daughter. Zbigniew Brzezinski's daughter. And if you guys, I'm sure you guys. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. You guys know.
He's a criminal. Her father.
You know Zbigniew.
I know Zbigniew. I don't know if Ben does.
I don't actually.
He goes back to the Carter administration. I mean, he goes back a long time. He's like Kissinger.
He got some serious, and he's
always there.
NSA, National Security Advisor type, military affairs, deep state. Brzezinski.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I had an argument with my brother-in-law. Did I tell you guys this story about Nixon?
I want to hear it, but nobody else does. I'm that old.
All right. Well, yeah.
I haven't heard it. I don't think I've heard anything about that from you. I recall.
So my brother-in-law is like, well, Nixon opened up China. And I'm like, oh, no. The Rockefellers and Kissinger opened up China. Nixon was just the puppet. And he didn't get it. Like, who the hell likes Nixon? Who the hell?
That would have been Jimmy Carter. Well, I guess they first started, I think, doing deals with Nixon. Like, I think when after Mao Zedong died, it wasn't that the famous thing, like Kissinger, and like maybe then eventually like Kissinger went to China, and then or was it like then Nixon then one of some premier came over to America or something? Like was that
in the early 70s?
But I know it was 79 is the year that Chinese culture thinks of as the actual significant like the turning point in the relationship.
And it was the early 70s here where Nixon was talking about opening up China. Nixon being the president, being the potentate at the time.
When Mao Zedong, I guess, was still alive, because I think he died in 76 or something.
Yeah, because I think because they were opening China, and Mao was involved. It was still very communist when we were talking about opening China.
I met a guy before in one of the language groups I practiced in who was like living in Taiwan back then, like back in the 60s.
But a guy like, some of these killers, some of these guys like a Nixon, a Kissinger, some of these guys that have never been put up before like war crimes tribunals, and in my opinion should.
They should.
They have these PR, public relations renovations, of themselves and the record. I think there's a lot of potentially with the news cycle the way that it is. There's probably a lot of millennials running around who are ne'er say even close to Nixon or any of the things that he perpetrated back in the day, because he did also do some good things. The only thing they're hearing about Nixon now is all the good things that he did.
I think
because,
how do you guys
because the news cycle is a business, and they have shareholders, and they have people to answer to, so you know it's going to be biased. This isn't a public service announcement. This is a business of lying, of deception.
I would agree with that up to the point where it was Clinton that did away with the fairness doctrine, and the fact that we don't hold our broadcasters to any kind of a standard anymore. They can't be audited, that kind of thing. It's all personally controlled by corporations and whatnot and what they want to do. Look at how the content and the informational quality, the variety of the voices that you hear now on public broadcasting, on PBS.
They're teleprompter reading salesmen.
They're fucking monkeys. Exactly.
They're salesmen. They're
you look at how news and news gathering has changed. The fact that we don't have foreign desks anymore, that we rely on news services, that we're not involved with actual boots on the ground with actual journalists, in foreign countries that are actually.
I think they limit the newspapers. Like in St. Louis, there used to be 3 newspapers, now there's like 1, and then things like that. And then also in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which I also lived. I know that there they at one point were like firing a bunch of writers and then like downsizing their permanent positions and then like hiring a bunch of like satellite writers in a bunch of ways to part-time people, just contracted out, basic, different things like that. So there's all these different ways that can save money. And then when there's limited positions, then it's more pressure to be,
to be on it.
We tell the people what to think. Don't think for yourself. We tell you what to think. We tell you what to think. All right, Mika, you got it, baby. You got it. We tell you what to think. Yeah, kiss my fucking honey, holy. You and your father, you treasonous bitches.
You still there, Cheryl?
Yeah, I'm still here, but y'all forgot about Soros too.
Yeah. Well, the forces that are lined up against this are many. Soros is definitely there.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. It's massive. It's not just a couple 100,000 people. There's millions of them. There are millions of them.
Well, the fact that it's so fundamental to our economy, it's fundamental to the our life, our existence. It's capitalism down to its very essence, and we all bought we've all bought in as a society.
I don't
as our organization.
I don't know if we've ever had capitalism. We've always had crony capitalism. We've always had fake capitalism, the illusion of capitalism. I don't know if we've ever truly had it.
I think during the period of Manifest Destiny, when there was still a lot of places to be settled, a lot of people who got established early on in those regions were able to have real capitalism until the territories were incorporated.
Yeah. Yeah, I get your point. I get your point, Perseus.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's degrees. I'm always saying that it's just like a spectrum or a continuum or like some way, just some measure like that, because I don't think you're gonna I don't think it's totally capital. I mean, but I think like in that scenario, or you talk about that historical time, that makes sense that it would have been more functioning kind of raw aspect of capitalism and forces and the new needs for new businesses and whatever. It's all good.
I'll roll that one back to the point where we've got guys, these titans of industry, guys like Andrew Carnegie and the other guy who was in charge of Standard Oil, Rockefeller, the father Rockefeller, back at the turn of the 20th century. Those guys, if they knew what they wrought at the time that they were doing it and could look into the future and see 2018 at the time that they were doing it, would they have done anything different, or would they have just thought, right on, I would have voted for Hillary Clinton, right on, I would have voted for, any of those folks. I like the fact that they've turned the world, not just our country, not America, because I'm using American Titans, and I apologize, Perseus, because I don't know of any. I'm aware of the bands and the music in Canada. I'm not aware that you guys have Titans. That's how fucked up the propaganda is in America. I'm not aware of your.
I think that's too hypothetical. I think that's too hypothetical. And
What's
it's
that?
not really. I think it's too hypothetical. It doesn't really matter. If doesn't really matter, and especially
well,
that.
I think if does matter, because these if you don't understand the consequences of what you do have repercussions, and we're talking. I'm still back on the point that Nash was making about we've never really had real capitalism. I think these guys have pushed it too damn far.
So what about like?
Hey guys, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to sleep too, guys. I love you. I love you all. I'm gonna
Thanks,
go
guys.
curl up to the pillow.
Yeah.
You guys have a great evening. I love you. I love you all.
It's
Take
very
care.
suspicious you're leaving at the same time, but you're not in the same city, so I can't make any sense.
So I was just gonna say though, what about like ask the Walton family or something, or Bill Gates or Oprah, or I don't know, all these different people.
Oprah, holy crap! I don't even want to think
I
about it.
don't know. I had another one and I forgot it. It was just like all these people who actually like made it beyond their wildest dreams. Different things. Like for them, capitalism probably feels real.
If you still think, Ben, that we have a free and open, fair economic system, then I want to sell you a bridge in Gator Country.
Okay, so what about like Walt Disney or something like that guy, like, or the old stories about Henry Ford or something.
I'm thinking
Bucky Fuller.
Different time. It's like, it's back to that point that Perseus made about back when we had, Manifest Destiny, and we could rape the land,
Elon Musk said it's about work.
Chop down the trees, dig out whatever we needed to out of the ground, rape and kill people, do whatever was necessary to survive. I mean, that's survival. That's basically the capitalist instinct.
I mean, Elon Musk did something, put something together.
You guys were talking over each other. I didn't hear you.
Oh, you first, Ben?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you can go first.
Well, I mean, I was going to say Elon Musk talked about that part of it was luck. But I mean, he did something. And I'm just trying to think of a most modern example.
And the modern examples to me are the guys, the exceptions. They're the guys, but as a percentage of the population, with most of the population, the fact that the mayor of Portland has pretty much thrown in his towel as far as trying to fix the homeless problem in Portland, because he says it's a federal problem. That too many of the interactions, the interactive day-to-day extensions that we now have as a global network community, are affecting these, municipal state.
I think a bigger problem is that there's just not any companies interested in building affordable housing.
Yeah, there's that too, because there's no money in it, right?
Sound like a global. Well, I guess that technically could be.
There's no money in it.
Global problem, but.
Well, I mean, I look at it this way, Perseus Goldman. If you build houses that were affordable, then you would have to get loans out of as much. So it's kind of important to build houses like of a certain amount that you already know people are going to definitely need loans on. Like depends where you're at, what that number is going to be. But I think that's why I think it's kind of just already kind of like they already kind of like, or they, here we go, they. Now I'm uber aware of the they, but
Well, I think
it's like it's already there's already awareness, a market awareness of like, you know, and markets are all related. You know, these different markets and different industries are super related.
You're making my point for me, Ben.
Really tech move. What is it called? If you want an example of a Canadian Titan, there's a guy named Kevin O'Leary, and he's the guy who's I heard say this in an interview. Basically, when you have part of the problem, particularly, I don't know about everywhere, but here in Canada, what causes most of the housing unaffordability, and it's really bad in all of our big cities. It's just as bad as like San Francisco or New York in our big cities. But the problem is we don't have any big cities but those ones. So it's not like we don't even have like a second tier option, like going from New York to Pittsburgh. It's like we've got our New Yorks and then all of our small towns. We don't have middle to ground places.
Right.
Basically, pension funds own almost all of the apartment buildings and condos because they're like some of the biggest, you know, asset pools of like liquid assets they can invest in our country. And what ends up happening is that the condo buildings are constructed by the real estate developers. They're immediately sold to the pension funds, who then immediately use them to take out loans to pay out the next several months of them having to pay out to the people in these pensions, because the money that's being paid into the pensions isn't actually being used to pay out to the people who are in the pension now. Because that would never work. It would never build interest fast enough to actually keep up with population growth.
Right. They'd drain it out too quickly. Yeah.
Wait, what?
They would drain the money out too quickly. They have that. Yeah. It's got to be a slower.
But then what happens is that because the building has now been assessed as collateral on these massive multi-billion-dollar loans, anything that could potentially invalidate the assessment value of that building can't be allowed to take place, whether it's them lowering the rent themselves, which would not be allowed to take place, or a new development undercutting their prices nearby cannot be allowed to take place, because it'll send ripples through our entire economy, including the pension funds of basically every private and public sector employee in our country.
Well, if you're worried about the stability of the funds, then why would you manipulate things? Because it seems like if you want to mess up the actual valuation or the funds like value, then the best thing to do would be to like manipulate the funds so that they would, like, you know, the actual value of them wouldn't be like what it is, or it would be
well, I think that I think that it's an end justifies the reality and expected, because I think that they want, like, I was talking earlier before you came on. Well, actually, I was talking about this briefly in the chat on Red and Economics thing earlier. But basically, my area has a real problem with illegal apartments in single-family dwellings, where there'll be like a dozen or more, maybe even 24 people, all adult males usually, living in the place, and it's all like illegally converted and all kinds of stuff. And my theory is that they are trying to intentionally force people into these living arrangements because what they want is to increase the amount of negative social interactions in society. Because in Canada, the whole thing is we have a very powerful, parasitic, nonviolent arbitration class. The idea is that by concentrating our population into these super dense cities, and, you know, then half the units or more are empty and everyone's crammed into these illegal apartments in close quarters, they're creating a situation where they know it's going to provoke more violence, which means more money for the lawyers, more money for the courts, more money for the prisons. Basically, the more negative social interactions happen in your society, the more money all of those parasitic classes gain, because their only existence is to prevent people from using their own violence to arbitrate these issues. And, you know, the state can't allow that to happen.
Extract resources, continue to extract resources. Yeah. From people directly.
Mm-hmm. And it's
definitely take their time and money.
One of the reasons why I'm right now in a big process. I'm moving out to literally like it's not like the literal middle of nowhere, but in the sense that, it's going to be a community of like 250 people kind of thing. And what's the joke is that for half of what I'm paying rent now in the city, I can have a mortgage on a multi-acre property with a operating farm. So I'm absolutely just, by this time next year, I should be doing that.
So Perseus, we've got this like, what would you call that? I know back in the 60s, we had a back to the land movement that came out of the 60s. It sounds up there. You've got the land to do it, right?
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and maybe it is just a Canadian politics being different from American politics because we don't have the same wedge issues here.
Right.
But there are a lot of green conservatives in Canada. And I think because of certain industries in the US being tied in with conservative movement, that's not a thing as much. Or there's individual conservatives who are green, but the movement as a whole doesn't have that sentiment. But here in Canada, the go back to the earth, small carbon footprint crowd is largely right-wing men.
Yeah.
But a big part of that too is our cultural heritage here is forestry and, hunting, trapping, wilderness stuff. Well, I guess in the U.S. too.
Lumberjacks.
Who have that kind of heritage are probably going to be more conservative anyway.
What was that, Ben?
I mean, people in the cities are probably more liberal, aren't they? So people in the country and who have that
that's the thing.
upbringing.
That would mean that the people in the cities would be more green, and it might mean that they're more likely to vote for a green party. But when it comes to actually trying to lower their carbon footprint, they do nothing in their personal life to actually do that.
Right. Well,
they're doing things. They do things like they do things to make it hard to have alternatives, to have like bike roads or to have real alternatives. So it's like systematically like let's say you live in a state in America where you can't smoke cannabis legally or access it. Well, it's a lot easier to smoke cigarettes. I mean, you can look at them and point at them and say, oh, they're ignorant because they smoke cigarettes, but it's like the system actually is set up to encourage them to smoke freaking awful cigarettes.
I'll shut up for a little while, but I have something really cool to say about cannabis here in Ontario because it's be officially legalized October 16th. And
congratulations.
There was a specific amendment made to the legislation because the soccer moms were all complaining about people being stoned in the streets. So they wrote it into the legislation that you can't smoke it outside. You have to do it in your own area, basically, right? Well, anyway, then all the landlords were like, but, then all of our tenants are going to be smoking in our units and we don't want that. So what the government said to them was, not literally in these terms, but ultimately this is what happened. The government said the entire point of legalizing cannabis is to placate the lower classes who are largely renters. So making it so a landlord has the ability to ban it from their property defeats the purpose of legalization. Therefore, we're making it the law that a landlord cannot block a tenant from smoking in their apartment. And the landlords are absolutely up in arms.
That's a freedom for the consumer, for the individual.
And our new premier here in Ontario, Doug Ford, he originally the way it was going to be set up was the Liberal Party was going to basically give a handful of companies who they were in bed with. They've been in power the last 12 years. So what do you expect? They ended up, being like, okay, well, there's going to be like a handful of companies we pick that are already multi-billion-dollar entities that are going to be allowed to grow the weed. So Doug Ford rolls in. He's the new leader of our Progressive Conservative Party, which again is a Canadian political concept. And he says, now how about this? It's going to be a crop just like hemp. If you're a farmer and you're certified to be selling things for human consumption, then you're automatically going to be qualified to grow marijuana. So it's going to be an absolute, gold rush, basically.
Whoa! So are you going to be able to give it to other provinces?
Yes, in fact, our neighboring province, Manitoba, is already setting up the infrastructure to do within Canada and international shipping of their marijuana. They're setting up the infrastructure now.
Because we can't do that yet here. We can't really ship it state to state. So I can't wait to the day to where, I could go to the store and get it from different states. It's not quite happened yet. So you guys are actually be ahead of us like that.
Well, it's interesting to say, but I think in
Will
Canada,
Smith
20 years ago in Canada, 68% of the population had already smoked marijuana at least once. So that's a pretty stoned country over time.
Soccer moms getting stoned in the street, man, that sounds dangerous.
Yeah, there's a lot of people
the ones complaining about people being stoned in the street.
Dude, but the truth is that I've seen is that whatever the social code is about it, like the more strict people, the more people take the cues. It's like if people say, "Oh, marijuana, bad," then other people will kind of mimic that, like, "Oh yeah, bad," but they're like teachers and they're like nurses and they actually smoke. But they just got to be like a parent figure. They just got to be like a figure in the society. They got to pretend like they're against it, but they actually smoke, or their husband smokes, or their kids smoke, and they don't make a big deal about it.
I wish.
I had friends in high school whose parents would buy, they're like, "We know you're going to go out and drink, so just drink here." They would buy us beer, different things. I don't really think that they were the worst parents. In fact, I think they're pretty cool. They're pretty smart. I mean, letting people get wasted is different, but getting a 24-pack of beer for like five boys. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's I don't know if that's the worst thing that ever happened.
No,
Maybe
the controlled environment, it makes sense. Like here in Ontario, our laws like that too. The age to buy alcohol is 19 years old, but the age to drink alcohol is 12, so that it can give parents the discretion within their own home.
Oh wow, yeah, I think we were 17 or something. Like one case I'm remembering.
Oh yeah, when it comes to substance use, I think Canada's always been a bit more liberal than the U.S.
Well, I think that it goes hand in hand with money too. I mean, like it's a good policy. Those people who are putting forward those judges and the rest, those guys are going to be like well regarded for a while and seal the deal for themselves. Like
how's this for old laws still being on the books? It wasn't until 2009-ish, 2009, 2011, that the age of consent was raised from 14 to 16.
Wow, yeah, that's
Canada has like a lot of really old laws still on the books. In fact, it's still on the books that you can duel and carry a sword. Like nobody does it and businesses will throw you out, but it's still technically legal. You have the right to wear a sword in Canada.
What's that guy? Oh god.
Scalagrim?
Oh, there was a guy. They asked Chris Matthews, challenged him to a duel. It doesn't matter.
I thought you were referencing. There's a Canadian YouTuber called Scalagrim who has like a swords and armor channel.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it was. We kind of made fun of that for a long time. It was some conservative, Southern dude who was like, "I wish we lived in an age where you could challenge a man to a duel." It's Chris Matthews. I don't know why it's so funny. It's just I can remember Chris Matthews' face. I should screen share that. What's that guy's name? Ross? Oh no. Oh, damn it. Thurman? I don't know.
I don't know. Ross Thurman? I've never heard of that. Or Ross or Roz?
I'm thinking of some old ass. He was like one of those old. The guy I'm thinking of is the guy from like South Carolina. He was like a really old senator, but it was actually this guy called Zell Miller. Yeah, Zell Miller challenged Chris Matthews to a duel.
And did he? Did they actually fight the duel?
No, it was like a joke. He didn't really challenge him. He goes, he's like, I wish he said it directly to him, but he said it like that. He said, I wish I lived in the day where you could challenge someone to a duel. And it was like made the national headlines. It was a big deal because it was just so weird, out of place. We're like, hey, we got this black president. It's 2010, and we're in the future, and then this guy comes along or whatever. talking about duels. It's fun. There's some weird laws out there. You hear about them usually changing. I guess that's good. Definitely good they got on that eventually.
Well, a big part of the reason why it was kept so low was because the marriage laws were set to the same age.
Okay.
So they figured, well, what's the point of letting them get married if they're not going to be able to consummate it, I think. Like, and the marriages of people that young, not in Ontario, but in Quebec, were still very common up until about the 90s.
I mean, probably in like religious.
Yeah, Quebec is a hyper-Catholic province.
I had a friend whose brother just, I don't know, 5 years ago got married at like 18, and they were like Jehovah's Witnesses. He wanted to have sex. He wanted to have sex, and he's like, I have to be married.
No, I don't even want to think about cults anymore right now.
I'm laughing too much, man. I gotta mute myself. I don't know why I'm laughing so much. It's not even that funny. I got this cannabis strain called Cheese. I don't know if it's making me. I don't know if it's Tech Move. Is Tech Move still there? Yeah, he's still there. Tech Move's making me all over the place with his all over the placeness.
Yeah. Oh, so what's it called? Tech. You're left wing, right?
I was really left wing my whole life, and I guess I still am. But like, I'm left wing without a party,
Yeah, I guess honestly, and label wise, I guess it didn't matter, but I guess there's still certain policy points where the terms are useful in distinguishing. But yeah, I guess the labels themselves are getting less useful.
I mean, right now, I think everything's topsy turvy. Like, so just my illusions have been shattered. I'm disillusioned to the pantomiming, pandering, pompous Democrats, sanctimonious, and just absolutely, they're just like either complete idiots or they're just completely dishonest. All throughout the media and the party and the things. So it's like I just think it's a sham party. So what's the point of being? What's the So I don't really identify with a party or anything or really Green Party or Jill Stein or any of it, anything. So it's just like I'm just kind of out there floating around without a haven or a camp or a it's okay. I'm okay with that. I guess at this point it's like.
I want to say something controversial. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with this topic, so it might not that matter. But I think that Q is a sheepdogging psyop being used to prevent conservatives who have been riled up by the Pizzagate narrative from going out and doing vigilante justice. And whenever I mention this in a lot of right-wing discussion groups, they all get mad because they think that Q is going to come save them. But I keep trying to tell them, no, a slave is someone who waits to be saved. And that's exactly what you're doing. But they just don't get it. Well, that's the thing. They think that because they're seeing pictures that are taken, it's like Q posts a picture of a building in China, and then a few days later, a massive bust happens at that building, and there's a whole big shenanigan that happens. Or
what are you saying? I just heard you say Q. What are you saying?
A Q is so the theory is that Q is an individual or group of individuals working at the highest level of the Trump administration who has been through various sources, been leaking. He's basically been giving like a 2 to 3 day advance warning every time there's been a major move in one of these child trafficking rings. So it's kind of like the idea is that every time you hear about a big arrest in regards to that, 3 days earlier, Q was telling people about it on 4chan, down to where it was going to happen and all that kind of stuff. And basically, there's a huge following among people on the right wing of saying that, oh yeah, Q is the shadow war, Trump is fighting against the deep state and all this stuff. But it went from them being like, okay, well, we won the election, the battle's over, but the war's just started, to, oh no, somebody else is taking care of this problem later, let's go back to sleep. And it's just, to me, maybe Q is real, but at the same time, it's obviously being leaked to the public in some sort of limited hangout that I think to curb vigilante justice on the part of conservatives on this topic.
So I think why you went into that was because I was saying, like, I don't fall in any, like, really in with any sort of sect, and you're like, this, you have a unique independent view. Is that what, am I right with that?
Yes, because if you're not into right-wing politics, you've probably never heard of him. Like,
no, I haven't heard about that stuff.
I have.
Now, what do you think about it?
But I have a, like, common ground. You know, I've been an activist, a political activist, and again, you already know this, Perseus, but I'm obviously a lefty guy. I'm already obviously a communist, but that's, you know, by choice, by design, my own personal design, because that's what my life has shown me. You know, I don't really have a problem with conservatives. Some of my best friends have been conservatives. And I really don't have a problem with any of that. I grew out of that. You know, I was a libertarian in 1980. I voted libertarian in 1980. But I grew away from that and grew out of that, you know, and I figure my place in the world is to help my fellow man. But I see conservatives all the time helping their fellow man. I help my fellow man. You know, it's a constraint. It can be a constraint. But I've seen the Q stuff, and I want to thank you, Perseus, because you have at least explained a little bit more about the Q phenomenon that I was seeing. And I was seeing it anecdotally. I was seeing it fractionalized in a fractionalized way, you know, through Twitter. And I was just seeing bits and pieces of it, but a direction, you know, a way into understanding it better never really materialized for me. So I never really pursued it.
If you want to go to get where he was actually dumping the information,
I thought it was QAnon. Was it QAnon? No.
No, Q and QAnon refers to the same phenomenon.
Is Q and QAnon the same phenomenon?
Yes.
Okay, so I was right in thinking it was QAnon. Okay.
What is it called? Most people, like, I mostly discuss it on, like, message boards, like Discords, or like in chats on YouTube.
But if it's right wing, it's right wing.
No, but what I mean in that context is, like, most people drop the anon just for character limit reasons.
Okay. Yeah. So Q. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. But wait.
When you dropped in, just to let you know, when you dropped in the 4chan part of it, I got where you were coming from.
Yeah, but you can't get Q on 4chan anymore. You have to go to a lot worse of a website called 8chan, and I'm not willing to go to that website.
Is it really buggy? Is it really malwared? What's wrong with it?
8chan posts shit like Lolita and Shota porn on it, and I don't want to go to a website that has that shit on it.
Can't block it?
What do you mean by block it?
I mean, if the stuff is on there, and like I say, I haven't seen the presentation on 4chan for a while. If it just pop-ups and that kind of stuff, then I would block those. But if it was part of a scroll, or, you know, if it was more text,
yeah,
and I think it's more text-based, then you're not going to be able to block it.
Yeah, and a big problem is with the way that the spoilers settings work these days, where if you put something in spoilers, then, you know, if you're going to click on that reveal spoilers thing, you better be prepared for it to be something pretty bad on these sites.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's just like, I don't even want to go near that. 4chan itself is bad enough.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm quite ready to go to that next level. When I think of whether potentially Trump is draining the swamp or not, I think it's enough for me just to think about it conceptually as at the military-industrial complex at that level. And then if I ever had to really dig into it deeper, you know, the fact that I'm seeing it and that you're talking about it, and if we continue to talk and our conversations continue, like you know, you become like a regular, you know, so to speak, you know, and this like a regular Zoomer, then probably maybe some of these things will naturally start talking about, and it broadens our horizons. It gives us more information. It gives us something to kick around and obviously become more informed with and informed by.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, I feel the same way coming to places like this. Like, for example, the whole gubernatorial election happening in Ohio. I knew absolutely nothing about that until I went to Redneck Economics' Zoom earlier today.
Right.
And I saw a video about it, but then all of a sudden I had all these opinions about what was happening. And it's just like, I didn't even know what was happening.
Right.
This is like right across the lake from me.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a good excerpt. She chose that clip really well, and it was nice, and I appreciated that. Yeah.
So are her videos up? Can I go and watch them? I hadn't seen it yet.
Probably should be.
She's listed on YouTube. Do you know, Ben?
Yeah, she is.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure the video's up. I'm sure.
Or is that
this, to me this is like, you know, like I was just thinking today of it as like kind of like a group podcast.
Right. Right. Exactly. But it, you know, in a bigger, better way, because you know we've got more people involved.
People do it on Hangouts too. People do it different ways. There's a 421. It's called what is it called? Cannabis Church or something like that.
Yeah.
It's called Hash Church. Hash Church, and it's really good. They meet like monthly, and there's like 15 different people, and they're super passionate like cannabis activists. One of them is like a young boy, like medical patient or something with his mom. It's pretty cool. He's like 12.
Are they doing it on video, or are they doing it via podcast?
Yeah, most of them are on video. There's like a couple people shy or something on video.
You guys have seen, I don't know, maybe, I'm not so sure about you, Persis, but I know Ben has probably seen Jinx and her hijinks. Jinx, you know what I'm talking about, Ben? Jinx?
Nope, nothing's ringing a bell there.
Yeah, she's from Kansas. Jinx is from Kansas, and she's basically a gardener, and she's a very heavy cannabis supporter, and she's always doing that stuff.
It's funny. There's just like probably how many freaking YouTube channels starting up right now. I like last year I searched for you know, top 100, or I didn't search for that. I just searched for like list of YouTube channels, blah blah blah, different things. And what I found though, what I did find was like top 100, you know, channels of, and I sifted through a bunch of them, and I found two that I really liked. Or I think one I already knew of, which was Spoken Reason, and the other one though is Blimey Cow. Blimey Cow is pretty big too. But I really like them. But there's just like that's a list of 100, and I know there's like, you know, 500 channels left off of there, and then there's other ones that are really small but really like gems and stuff.
And of course,
we can't have like a macro list of like 40,000 channels and start sifting through them painstakingly one by one as like a group project and trying to
catalog it.
Go about like, you know, kind of like throwing them all in a pile somewhere, or throwing a bunch of good ones, you know what I mean, like at each other. And then like it'd be cool if there's like some sort of system like that, you know, like if it's like 3 people, like 3 out of 4, at least 3 out of 4 people say, oh, that's a good channel, like it belongs on that list, and like, okay, but you know, has to be like triple approved or something like that.
New and improved YouTube. New and improved YouTube.
Well, things like that, or just basically people taking it upon themselves to actually compose a list or a you know, something, or like a website with categories and kind of I guess lists also or something. I mean, it can be done right now. It can be done right now. It's just like, it's being done. It's being done. I'm sure there's people writing articles like, here's these cool channels.
What's your motivation?
Yeah. You have any suggestions you want to make other than those ones yet?
About channels or about what I was talking about? Oh, there's tons of good channels that I could think of, and I think it's just an ongoing situation where we should kind of tell each other about that. But I'm kind of talking about like more like what would be a gathering place for like a system, a way that everybody could do that, and you could do that, over time, and it would be somewhere where it would stay up, or it would be a growing and evolving and changing, and adapting and being altered,
Well, I don't know if I want to be the one to do it yet, but maybe because I'm not really actually good at the actual interface for it, but one of us should probably set up a Discord server for recommendations.
Yeah. Honestly, it's well, here's an idea I had before, which I can't get it off of my like I just can't shake it off. It's just something that just sticks with me, even if I don't want to think about the idea. I still think about this idea, which is like that, it's hard to find new channels. It's hard to find new Twitter people to follow on Twitter. They exactly like people out there, or it's just hard to find new YouTube channels. It's hard to find I guess like really, like if say you want to get into Instagram, like where do you begin? Like you just kind of like slowly have to see what your friends repost or something, and it's kind of like that with every single social media. I think every single social media is kind of at a crawl. So what I think could expedite the whole damn thing is if there was something like a clothes or and like a wardrobes that you could put on, like, and that's, I don't know why I can't think of it any other terms, but I just think of it like that, like the clothes that you would put on. So like it's like I go to a website, and there's these different companies that their whole job is to like synthesize and process and go over and pour over tons and tons of content and channels, and so then like so one of these particular companies could give you 2 or 3 or 4 options of like these clothes that you put on. So you have like, and you could just like actually visualize it, actually put, actually have like 4 different versions of male or female clothes or whatever. And so there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then each one would be like, I don't know, 100 different Twitter channels, or Twitter people on Twitter, or 100 or 200 YouTube channels. And so you put those clothes on, and then when you put those clothes on, I don't know why, but you basically would be subscribed temporarily to all these channels, or you would follow temporarily all these people on Twitter. And so then you would, by going through your feed, then be like, oh, I like this, and then you like just push another little button, and it permanently adds it to your crap. But then you just take those clothes off, right, and then boom, it's gone except for what you permanently saved. And I think of that like as like, different companies can compete with trying to offer you, and at the same time some could do something towards like actually not just showing you about a channel, but like a specific video, a specific content, that like just like playlists or something to sort through to pick from, and they would all be actually, really quality, or something really choice, or really just that a lot of people agreed on, reviewed, and thought it was really high quality or top notch. So like, I don't know, just something this kind of a thing I think would offer us a way to, expand what we follow, to expand our YouTube TV, to expand, all these different social media, any different social media, because it could work with, like I said, it could work for Instagram, it could work for Twitter, it could work for YouTube. And yeah, it's just something we're not doing right now.
Yeah, I really like your idea, because
thanks, man.
One of the best things about it is that it takes the curation of the content away from, say, YouTube deciding what you're seeing, to a part of your because you're choosing and using the software, however it's set up to configure what's being curated towards you, but it's not being controlled by the people who actually run the platform.
Right, and there's people out there with good taste. There's people out there with good taste, fine taste, people that would like to sift through things, people that, it would create an opportunity for actually like, young people to sit around and hang out and look at content, listen to music, talk about it, and do their thing. Just basically, be like little producers and managers, and if you do a good job, I think the good thing about it is like it's kind of natural. Like if you do a good job, people like it. They're going to go to you, and you're going to get more attention, more recognition. So that there's like a natural incentive to go dig, to go. Like I have some friends from the UK, and they're like posting. The reason I had this idea was because I had a friend from the UK, and he's just posting like this some live event at some kind of rave or some club or something, some DJ's set, through somebody he knew. I'm like, nobody knows about this, but this is super good. This is super cool, and things like, and so like, there's probably stuff happening right now. There's probably stuff going, probably lots of great music, lots of great, comedy, so it's like, well, people too. I mean, they when you're a talented, comic, or you're a talented, joke, stand-up comic or something else, they kind of like, they're on budgets, they're like living super poor. So it would be nice if they could get exposed faster. It'd be nice if they weren't so helpless and they're not good at marketing. Well, they're fucking good at what they're doing, So like it could be like harmonious, and it could work out for like different, for all the different parties, I would guess,
Hey, hey guys, I'm getting pretty tired. I'm probably gonna shut it down. If there's any more that you guys want to talk about, to kind of end it, to conclude it, I guess we can carry on again.
I think that'd be a good service, because look at a channel like Hard Bastard. He's able to pull in live audiences routinely, larger than channels 5 to 10 times bigger than his. But he's not trending. He's not being distributed throughout recommended videos anymore. His channel growth has basically halted in terms of, like, his audience seems to be growing because more and more people keep tuning in live, but the actual subscription counts aren't going up, which means he's losing massive amounts of subscribers every time he puts a video up.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that he hasn't gained subscribers for a straight year.
Yeah.
I think I've
but
lost
he's
more
getting more and more
subscribers
live
than
viewers every episode, though.
All right.
This doesn't make any sense.
That's a good topic to go over on a night, like an actual topic on I guess it would just be YouTube subscribers, viewers, growth, or stalemate, not stalemate, stagnation. There you go, of independent.
Hey,
media.
I sent a link to my Patreon, but it's not about really Patreoning up the funds as much as it is about just positing my ideas kind of clearly, somewhat coherently. So like I got a bunch of ideas about a bunch of different kind of ways to tinker and kind of tweak the internet from my lens, the way I see it. So if you got a second, if you can grab that link, man, check it out. Something.
Sure.
I've written about that actually idea, I think, multiple places. I call it wardrobes.
You want me to post it on the live chat?
You're welcome to do that. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's in the it's definitely in the Zoom chat here.
All right.
Thanks for the space, man. You're using your time and you're using your money to pay for the Zoom. So thanks, dude. Ebon.
No problem. Thanks for you guys coming on and participating and not being afraid of talking to each other and getting into arguments and whatever disagreements. I mean, I feel like it's, for some reason, this time, like, people don't want to argue. They don't want to disagree. They feel like they're either afraid or something. I don't know what it is. It's just human interaction, right? We all disagree. We don't disagree. We don't agree with anyone 100%.
There's one party that's really self-righteous, and that's like the biggest part of the problem. I think that this one party is just all like everybody's all pent up and all by themselves, and all just kind of like everybody's all just kind of like kind of proud and just like kind of a little bit hostile. But one party particularly is just very, very self-righteous right now, thinking that they're better than everybody. And
I don't know. I think
noses up in the air.
Both parties do that.
Trump.
Both parties do that.
That's the problem. That's the problem with why we can't have discussions and be civil and have nice conversation and good discourse.
Yeah. All right.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Thanks for coming on, Perseus, Ben, Tech, and Garden, and everybody else who's been on, Eric, Shirley. And see you guys another night.